In this episode, we'll deep dive into the hidden costs of micromanagement on your organization. You'll learn not only how it costs you financially, but also how it impacts your team's morale, productivity, and overall success. Stick around till the end, and you'll discover actionable steps senior leaders just like you can take to counteract those negative effects and cultivate a more empowering and productive work culture. It might seem like a straightforward method to ensure that tasks are completed correctly, but it carries significant downsides organizationally. When senior leaders excessively oversee and control every aspect of your team's work, the ripple effects can be disastrous. Let's look at some data. The financial costs in decreased productivity. Micromanagement leads to a substantial decrease in employee productivity, with studies showing up to a 30% reduction. This loss of productivity directly impacts your company's bottom line or a company's bottom line, as employees spend more time responding to excessive oversight rather than focusing on their core tasks. What about increased turnover costs? Well, high employee turnover is a direct consequence of micromanagement. Sure, there's a whole bunch of other things, but particularly micromanagement, it's such a disrespectful and disempowering kind of trait. The costs associated with recruiting, hiring, and training new employees can be substantial, not to mention the loss of institutional knowledge when experienced employees leave. How about absentee expenses and disengagement caused by micromanagement leads to that increased absenteeism? Studies have shown for a typical 10,000 person company, this can cost approximately $600,000 annually in salary for days where disengaged employees are absent. That is significant. Reduced employee engagement is another factor, another implication. Up to 79% of employees report that micromanagement negatively affects their morale and productivity. 79% is probably low. Disengaged employees are way less likely to go above and beyond in their roles. And in this day and age, man, you need people to be innovative and flexible. So the ultimate result is mediocre performance and reduced overall organizational effectiveness. What about damaged company culture, aka deterioration of the employee-manager relationship? Micromanagement creates a toxic work environment characterized by low trust, high stress, and poor teamwork. This negative culture can permeate throughout the organization, just not within the team itself. So this makes it really difficult to attract and retain top talent, especially in this day and age where folks can reach in and out to individuals. Hey, how do you actually like this company? And they will get the straight goods. Another adverse effect is creativity and innovation is stifled. One of the understated repercussions of micromanagement is the stifling of innovation. When employees are not given the freedom to think and act independently, they're inclined to follow the safest route, the most risk-averse route. And they will avoid risks that could lead to those innovative solutions, the thinking outside the box, looking at it the third way, whatever that looks like. To illustrate, think back to any instant when an employee proposed an out-of-box idea but was shot down, either by yourself or somebody on your management team, because it didn't align with the manager's vision. Over time, this suppresses the creativity, it suppresses the innovation, suppresses the risk-taking, and this affects the company's overall growth and adaptability. And those are what you need in today's marketplace. So with these obvious costs, why don't things change? If you were pumping out projects in a line of business that weren't working, you'd strike a committee, you'd do an all hands on deck shift in direction, etc. You'd update your bosses, the board, all of those other things. So what is the problem? Why does micromanagement persist? Despite these clear disadvantages, micromanagement persists in many organizations. Understanding why is crucial to addressing it. So the number one is lack of trust. And honestly, that starts from the very, very top, walking the walk. Many leaders find it hard to trust their team members. They fear that if they don't oversee every single little detail, things will fall apart. There's gonna be like a yard sale. The fear is often rooted in previous bad experiences, totally get it, or a lack of confidence in the team's abilities. And oh my goodness, then why are they on your team? Why haven't you developed them? The second reason is insecurity. Insecurity can drive leaders to micromanage. Maybe the insecurity is for their own jobs or whatever that might look like. Maybe they're worried about you coming down on the manager. Leaders may feel their worth or position is threatened and really believe that by controlling everything, they can protect their status within the organization, protect their reputation. Unfortunately, this perspective often backfires, always, leading to the problems we discussed a little bit earlier, insecurity. Number 3 is perfectionism. Oh my goodness. Perfectionism is the impedance of progress. Some leaders are just simply perfectionists. They have high standards and believe the best way to meet them is through constant oversight. However, this prevents their team from learning and growing, and they're not allowed room for mistakes, an essential component of development. One of the ways that I handle perfectionism is the fact that I go with the 80% solution. Get to 80%, and then let the smart people doing smart things, being adaptable and flexible and all those things, figure out the 20% on the fly, because analysis paralysis, perfectionism, we are never going to achieve it. And particularly in a fast flowing situation, whether it be a crisis or a quickly evolving market / AI, insert AI, for instance, get to 80%, pull the trigger, because we can always fix things. But what we can't fix is indecision and analysis paralysis. We want folks that operate out there. Fourth reason is cultural and organizational norms. Man, oh man, this is where some self-reflection is required. In some organizations, micromanagement is just ingrained in the culture. And again, it starts often at the top. New managers adopt these practices because it's the norm. It just perpetuates the cycle. Even if they weren't a micromanager to begin with, if their boss is micromanaging, you can be sure as shit that, man, oh man, that's going to flow downwards. So let's talk about a real world example. Envision a retail chain, for example, where every store manager received a call or an email they need to update from the head office, the mothership, 3 times a day for updates. Well, the goal, I get it, was to ensure consistency, but the unintended consequence was that managers spent more time on calls than on the ground problem solving. And they in turn would micromanage or look for updates from everyone else. The store's performance lagged behind the competitors and employee burnout rates soared. It happens all over the place. So thinking about micromanagement from a macro perspective, but it does require you to be thinking at a micro level. So what are some solutions? How can you make it better as a senior leader? I totally get it. You might be wondering, if micromanagement is so detrimental, if being detail-oriented is so bad, what's the alternative? Well, here's how you can break the cycle of micromanagement and foster a more empowering, productive culture. Build trust. Create a trustworthy environment. That is absolutely paramount. Demonstrate trust in your team's abilities by delegating responsibilities, task, purpose, and end state. I've talked ad nauseum about that. Allow your employees the autonomy to approach tasks their way, meeting that end state. Encourage that open communication so your team feels comfortable sharing updates and concerns. They will actually share bad news to you, and that is actually a good thing. So start by delegating small tasks and gradually increase the level of responsibility. For instance, instead of detailing how to complete a task, outline the goal and let the team or the team member figure out that best approach, that task, purpose, and end state. Very important though, foster a culture of accountability. So we're not saying throw caution in the wind and let people do whatever they want. You want to shift from micromanagement to a culture of accountability. Clearly define the expectations and the outcomes, but give the employees the freedom to achieve these goals in their own way, provided it fits within your company's policies, procedures, and it's morally and ethically correct, and all of those other things. So what does that look like? Establish clear KPIs and conduct regular check-ins focused on outcomes rather than the processes, not worrying about how they're doing it. It's the outcome. This way you hold your team accountable for the results, but not that like minutia of how they got there. That's where the micromanagement really shows up. Provide support, not control. I say again, support, not control. Not chain of command, chain of support. Transition from being that controller to a facilitator, like a conductor at an orchestra. Be available for the guidance and support, but resist the urge to take over tasks, as difficult as that can be as a leader. So adopt a coaching mindset. Instead of providing solutions, ask guiding questions that help employees think critically and develop their problem-solving skills. And again, this starts with your immediate team, but it also makes sure that that culture of empowerment and communication flows downwards. Empower people through training. Walk the walk. Actually invest in training. Invest in their development. Regular training and development programs can equip them with the skills they need to work independently and confident. Insert impact framework, leadership framework here. That's what we focus on. So you want to be implementing the workshops focused on things like decision making and problem solving. There's all sorts of great content out there. Eisenhower matrix. Just because everything's important doesn't mean it's all urgent. So you want to encourage team members to take ownership of projects and offer them the resources they need to succeed. You're setting them up for success and not failure. Encourage innovation. We don't want risk-averse cultures. We want to create a safe space for creativity and innovation. Encourage them to take risks within reason and then experiment with new ideas without the fear of them being reprimanded for mistakes. It's a learning opportunity. It's that growth mindset. It's now a data point. So maybe it's a case of introducing like an innovation challenge where teams can work on novel projects outside their scope, provided that they're still able to do that. Recognize and reward innovative solutions, even if they're not perfect. Don't come down on folks. Don't ridicule them. Support the different approaches. That is you walking the walk and creating the culture on your team and your management team, and that will permeate down. And be watching for indications of micromanagement in your leadership team, because it can be a silent killer with organizations. It drains morale. It kills productivity and absolutely stifles innovation. But by shifting to a leadership style focused on trust, accountability, support, all of the things we talked about, that's where you're going to get the most empowered culture. But remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time. It can take some incremental changes in your approach to it. Now we'll start to flow downwards. And eventually, everyone will be fostering an empowering environment, and you'll see your organization flourish and making sure that you're taking these steps today. So thank you for joining me on this episode. And remember, the best leaders are those who can inspire and empower their teams to succeed, whether that's your immediate management team or your entire organization. And until next time, lead with some trust, lead with some vision, communicate well, kick micromanagement to the curb. Remember to like, subscribe, and review all of the things. Thank you.